Okay, I am starting a new video, and I call this one a study of orbs. And I begin with this orb picture right here. And I'm just going to go through and read some of the things I have written on each page and add a few comments in between as well. And you're hearing little peeping sounds. That's chickens. I have little chicks in my room. They're too little to put out in the barn with other chickens. Okay, orbs are often very beautifully colored. Most of my orb pictures are ones showing the great diversity of colors in orbs. I take pictures of the orb, which I feel is a photon of light, as it comes from the light source. In this case, the light source is a LED light in my room. As it moves out from the source, it loses its teardrop shape and becomes very round. Only its movement is determined by my viewing of it, for it is my belief that we as observers are a big part of the equation when it comes to what light is doing and how it is looking. At this teardrop stage of the light, it often does this kind of reproduction of itself. The orb makes another orb, which it tosses over to still another orb, and with my camera, I can move it so that I see the action of the orb in the middle being tossed back and forth from one orb to another. Very often, the orb will move. Stretch move is one way that it moves. There's many other ways as well, though. Often I have several orbs stretching, and as they do, they show the colors, which I think is showing me what is in empty space. The colors can be very fluorescent. They seem to be very flexible and show that they can fold in many directions. Sometimes as they move, they look like this. This movement of an orb looks like a standing wave. And see, they have black holes appear in them, but you can see actually that the darkness just seems to sometimes cover up something that's really there, that is like they turn the light out. But you can see there's stuff inside that hole. Sometimes they're completely black, though. Like this one. This orb had a very distinct round black hole in it. Also in this picture, you can see some of the artifacts this particular camera has in it, which shows up in the same part of the picture always. So I think they are things that are stuck in the workings of my camera. And I'm going to point to one right here. That was my very first one. There is one right there. Here's one right here. Down here you can't see all of it, but you will see it in other pictures. Is what I call a double jointed artifact, because there's several of them. You'll see them as I go along. I might point them out. But the interesting thing about them is that they look like some of the things that are in the orb. Some of the other things. And so I'm wondering, what are they doing in my camera? Sometimes I get orb action like this. These 4 examples of light photons are showing how that they can fold and span out. Light moves by reproducing itself. It is full of information. Would that we could read it fluently. This orb has a strange pocket-like opening with what looks like colorful bubbles in them. I snapped a second picture of this, and you will see there was movement. The bubble-looking part seems to be falling out of the opening. I see this bubble-like material with the naked eye. Often it seems to be coming from my third eye. I see my third eye like 2 flaps that open and close with the opening and closing of my physical eye. These bubbles turn loose and move into the big orb that I also see with my third eye, which has all kinds of things moving about in it. At first, when I saw a large orb loom up before me as I gazed into a bright light, there was only black and white and shades of gray in the many things that moved in and out of the orb. It was like looking into the torus, seeing it through the middle opening of that. I think we color the world around us. And I say that because one day I saw from the two flaps a colorful ribbon of colors come out into the bigger orb, and then everything started being colorful. It seems that not everyone can capture the orb with their camera, and I feel that I know the reason for that. In a metaphysical book I read that when we realize that we are all one and we see the divinity in every individual, then we will be given a glimpse of the subatomic microscopic zone of life. If that is true, then it is a good thing, I think, for if there is ever some great power in knowing the microscopic world, it would be limited to those who are in service to others and not to those who are in service only to theirself. Light moves along like this as well. Light orbs show these strange-looking, warm-looking things in them. These I also see in light with the naked eye. Actually, it's like I'm encased in a bubble around me that keeps these little tube-looking things always in front of me, and if I turn around and around, they stay in front of me. This is a drawing that I found showing the torus and the vector equilibrium. It is like I were viewing light from the place of seeing down into the center of this torus. I sometimes feel like I'm looking into the torus from this direction, or maybe from the bottom, but into the vortex. The orb often twists in the middle like this one is doing. Sometimes they move about in a very spastic kind of way. The orb can move itself in many different ways. I say orb because light moves orb-like. I think the orb can be useful for many purposes. For some, it is a vehicle for traveling about in. Strange images show up in many of the orbs I photograph. Two black things are often in the orb pictures I take. And I also see these little moving tubes with the naked eye. And it makes me think about how maybe this thing they call string theory might be true. Because I certainly see little string-looking things, but and they're sometimes entangled with other strings, but they're always just pieces of strings, not a very long piece. On August the 13th, I started seeing this donut shape. It was a one-day occurrence, for I have not seen it since then. It came in the teardrop orb shapes that first emerged from the light as well as in the circles. And there's another picture of it. I took several pictures of it that day. Light makes many vortex movements. Light orbs move ribbon-like. Introducing Harry, this light creature. He shows up in so many of my pictures of orbs. However, only one of my cameras captures Harry. At first I thought he was a piece of debris, only now I am sure that he is not. And I get this little character very often in many of the orb pictures, and sometimes when I'm doing a video, he just follows along as I move from one scene to another. He just moves along with me. And I named him Harry. These photons of light form countless beautiful movements and colors. The work of art these orbs perform, such blending of colors. This one looks like a cave. The structures inside this one moved around, and in this one it seemed as if the upper left-hand corner of this just exploded out of the orb. But these colors and things that are in orbs, you will see from some of the other pictures, they can move in one orb and into another. It's like they share their colors. Now this is strange looking, looks like a bottle of wine, but it's an orb moving. It even had a little white patch there, and I thought, wow, and it looks so perfectly like a bottle of wine that I used a program that lets me write into my pictures, and I said, light wine for enlightenment. And you see how fluid-like the orbs are. They just can flow and seem to go over and around things. If we could see the light that floods us, the colors streaming, oh, if only. This I took outdoors, and these horses were getting bathed in all this beautiful light. This is a one-time picture here of what an orb did, and I've never gotten it since. Often a dark band of color drapes itself over an orb. Often it will cover the entire orb. Of course, it didn't in this one, or I wouldn't have a picture at all. But sometimes as I'm looking at it, the dark stuff covers completely the orb that I'm looking at. Now this one's interesting. I wrote something from a book by Margaret Storm. The transmuting of all electronic energy which man has misqualified must go on atom by atom, electron by electron, until all humans on this planet emerge into freedom's light, and the planet itself enters its new orbit as Freedom's Star. For this is the name written in the Book of Life for planet Earth. And that was a quote by Margaret Storm from her book, The Return of the Dove, which is a book that I read on my YouTube channel. Now, this orb, I took another picture of it, and you can see these little round things inside. And they seem to be emerging out of a bigger orb that is sort of cocoon-like around it. Here's something else that Margaret Storm said, and this is important to know. The purification process, which we are all in, is always joyous and wholesome. No purification can take place while the individual feels that he is being crucified, that he is suffering for some good cause, or while he is busy feeling sorry for himself and simply wallowing in his own self-pity. These feelings do not purify the atoms. On the contrary, they are astral emotions of the most degrading type, and will further clog the atoms with astral debris. She had a lot to say about atoms in her book called The Return of the Dove. That, I think I might have mentioned that already. I read that book on this channel. Orbs seem to have an outer coating. Look at this. It looks like, it had a white coating on it. These orbs have a lot of dimension to them, a lot of layers. They twist like this sometimes. I cannot know how to get them to do this on command. It happens, but it's rare for me to see them doing this kind of motion. Notice this design, which I will show in the next picture, which is not one of my pictures. And here it is. I saw this on the computer just the other day. New analysis shows a way to self-propel subatomic particles. And I'm not sure whether this image is an image that they actually took or is it a drawing. I don't know. But look at this. It looks real similar to the kind of things I see in orbs. The way they thread themselves together like tapestry. And here's one that actually looks like that picture that was I showed you. I'll go back to it. You see, it looks like the orb is spilling over from the middle and stuff is coming down there that way. Now I'll go back and I'll show you. If that were turned the other way, it might look that way as well, if it were turned with this part down. Now, sometimes orbs have lots of these kind of tapestry or, this design in them. I'm always seeing this, and I also see this with the naked eye. Sometimes a ribbon-like streak will go right through the orb. And sometimes an orb is belted by a dark ring of stuff. And you see this, I'm talking about this right here. Sometimes it's real light, and sometimes it's dark matter. Interesting are the kinds of things that intersect an orb. This tube-like thing seems to go around the orb to the other side. See, if you follow it, it seems to go up the edge and over and around to the other side. So maybe, when I say other side, maybe I'm thinking that these orbs are more like spheres, like a ball. I don't know. This is a light dimension that there's not a lot we know about it. And the colors are just so beautiful that I see. Then there's all these circles and small circles, if you can see them. Let's see if I can bring this up. Yeah, I can. See all the little small circles? And I'll go to the next one now. Oh, this is a line from William Blake's poem. To see a world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wildflower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. I'm always getting circles within circles within circles in my orb pictures. They can be very beautiful. This orb twisted itself into 3 directions. Spillover from one orb to another happens often. I can't help but think that these orbs communicate with one another by their actions. I found this statement in a metaphysical book, also called The Return of the Dove. During the Aquarian Age, the violet fire of the mighty 7th ray will constantly surge up and through the earth, washing over every single atom that makes up the globe. It is correct to say that before we can raise the vibrations of our atoms to the ascension frequency, we must let go of all our pet peeves. We must raise the vibration of our physical atoms which compose our body. It is with love that we can raise our vibration. If there's any discord shown toward matter, toward a physical atom, it is impossible to raise the vibration in a natural way. I think that CERN does violate the physical atom by forcing it to do the things it does. We must lovingly call forth the God substance which forms the nucleus of the atom, inviting it to rise and return to the source. The atoms thus loved will open like budding flowers, free in the imprisoned light in the center of the atom, a light which has gained in brilliance because of its service to the planet. Modern scientists advocate the use of brute force to compel the atoms today, but that lowers the vibrations of the atoms. Those scientists who have enslaved the atoms of their own body that they live with each day can think of atomic power only in terms of fission and fusion. He wants to split the atom, to tear it apart by brute force, to strip it bare. And I thought this looked very pretty. This particular one had a lot of violet in it. The violet ray, the seventh ray, is also known as the ray of white magic because of its instantaneous alchemical action of transmutation. I think El Morya said that. And so here's a little of them with the violet color. And here's one more of the horse, and a lot of violet came through in that. I was finding a matted look in the orbs where the color of the orb was violet. See, you see in this violet part, you can see that matted look. But in case you can't see it that good, well, I'll bring it up. Maybe you can see it now. The next picture will show you it up real close. And someone that I showed this to said that they make these soundproof rooms with a pattern on the wall that looks a whole lot like that. So I'm just going to show you, well, here's another one to read. For millions of years, man was unaware of his conscious self. He was but body, expressing the desires of body, constantly seeking that which his body needed, and taking it by his might of physical strength. During those eons of his unfolding, man was totally unaware of the universal, inexorable law which governs his every action. Then came the dawn of consciousness. Man began to know. Then he created extensions of his body to do for him what his body could not do. He created a boat to transport his body, then a sail for the boat, then a wheel and fire to warm him and cook the food, which he formerly ate raw during the animal stage of his unfolding. Then came the long savage and barbarian stages of increasingly complex human relations, based upon the jungle principle of taking that which he wanted by the power of might over right. During thousands of years, tribes warred upon other tribes, building themselves into nations and then empires to gain possession of the wealth and services of other tribes and nations by acquiring their lands and people for ownership and exploitation. Now here's a beautiful orb with a lot of fluorescent colors in it. I guess it's in movement. It looks like it is. It's stretching. Here's another one. And you see how on its side the orb looks like a coin. You can tell from that one there. And there's some violet light coming down from the light. And I don't have words on this one, just it's a pretty example of how it makes colors. And this one looks like rib bones, but this is an orb, or many orbs. Light picks up so much color as it moves, and the colors morph and change. Here's a very beautiful one I got one time. I've never gotten anything like this again, but I'm proud of this picture. And I have pictures where it looks like a portion of the orb just makes a bridge. It reminds me of the sun making these big loops of plasma come up. Photons moving often look like an earthworm in appearance. This is that design that was in the orb picture that looked like a cocoon that was birthing these things, and I see this design right here often in the bigger orbs. Here's an interesting one, and another. I'm going to go rather fast because I'm about to run out of time. And this is another example of that matted look. I'll bring it up real close so you can see how it looks matted. And that had never happened before, but it doesn't do it now. Some of these things that orbs do, they've done in the past, and I haven't seen them do again. And you never know. You just never know what you'll get when you take a picture. And here's one that doesn't have a lot of color, but it has a lot of rings. I have many, many, many pictures of orbs that are like this. And people used to see rings in the sky long, long ago, but we don't have much information from those people who lived in those days. And this one looks like it's showing its coating, and under it is a bubbly little world of more colorful things. I'll just go through a few. I often see this bullseye thing. I see it a lot in my orbs. The dog just came in my room. Okay, this was taken outdoors. There's that pattern again that was in the excuse me, that was in the cocoon looking one picture. In the book called, or in the video called Symbols of an Alien Sky, you will learn that in the ancient skies there had many circles of with different designs to them. There is a code hidden within the orbs of light, messages of a sort yet to be deciphered. No two orbs of light are the same. Each has its own individuality. Orbs can mutate so quickly, and they seem to be able to share their colors. The dog out again. Their very body with other orbs, which is to me an example of sharing and knowing that they can reform and be given even more light for their next brief existence. Of course, I don't really know how long they exist. Everything's in the now, and it's always moving. So here's one that's fanned out. They do this a lot. But I don't often get this action in the orb picture taken I'm doing recently. But at the time that picture was taken, it did it a lot. This one looks like an explosion, sort of. It is what we do, say, think, and believe that affects others and the universe around us. And here's a quote from Einstein. For us believing physicists, the distinction between past, present, and future is only an illusion, even if a stubborn one. I don't have time to read all these, but I will go through some of these rather quick because I'm getting into too long a video. I want to get through the few pictures I put together for this. Now this one looks like it has seeds in it. Sometimes you would think that's not an orb, but it is. It's a jumble of orbs all jumbled together. And this one camera I have puts two eyes in every orb, and you can see them. I'm pointing to them there. Right there, right there, right there. And in some of the pictures that I've already gone by, they were there, but you might not have noticed. If there's not too much darkness in the area of this portion of the orb, those two eyes will always show up. Even if the orb is all folded up, scrunched up, you'll still see those orbs sometimes. I mean, those eye socket looking things. Light can look like lace. It can look like that. Light commingles. These are Walter Russell's words, I will say them. That which I know in light must I translate into words for which there are no words. Wordless essence must I translate into words of man. The source must I picture in extensions of the source. Ideal must I unfold as illusions of ideal. reality must I paint with the pigments of unreality. To the sense conscious must I bring cosmic consciousness. And I will mention here that I read several of his books on my channel, Walter Russell. I love reading his words. I read The Secret of Light, The Divine Iliad 1, The Divine Iliad 2, A New Concept of the Universe, Atomic Suicide, and I read a lot of Jane Roberts' books where Seth speaks. So you might want to check out my channel. Sometimes an orb looks like this. And sometimes it looks really strange, like this, kind of geometric looking. Oh, and I just found this guy, or woman, Alexandra Bruce, I don't know who, but on January the 28th, 2016, he had a video entitled New Lens Detects Invisible Entities. He's the CEO of Thunder Energies. Oh no, this Dr. Ruggiero Santilla is. And he said, "This is an exciting discovery. We do not know what these entities, I must have not written in there, are. They're completely invisible to our eyes, our binoculars, our traditional Galileo telescopes. But these objects are fully visible in cameras attached to our Santilli telescope." And I added here, I would say one can see them in empty space in your own room without a camera and with a camera. You just have to know how to do it. This is an orb of light folded up. It looks like a diploma. Maybe I have graduated. And go through these rather quick. Oh, I forgot I added a whole lot more orbs. Look at this orb. That's my eye. And this is an orb in it. Because any place where light shines so bright that it makes a shiny spot, that's where you see the orbs. And what you do is you use your digital camera that has a focus that goes in real close. And you have the room pretty dark except for a LED light shining on an object of glass, which will make these shiny spots. It doesn't have to be glass though. It can be plastic, porcelain, steel. It can be a shiny leaf on a tree. Any place where light collects. And if you focus up real close, you will see the orb that it makes. And you can photograph it. But I do believe that it helps if you believe that we are all one. But I'm not real sure on that. I just have that as a suspicion. This is something Serapis Bey said. The center of the minutest particle of substance is but an electronic ball of fire. Let's see. Oh gosh, I'm on 20-something minutes. I might have to not do this one if it doesn't fit. YouTube used to give me an hour, but now they cut it back. You see that pattern again in these last 3 pictures that went by? Look, this thing is really weird. It looks like an animal's tail with its fur. All kind of strange things I see in orbs, and I see them do strange looks. And I see things with the naked eye that I cannot film with the camera. And with the camera, I see things that I cannot see with the naked eye. It works both ways. But I really wish I could show you what I see with the naked eye. But I will tell you, if you ever start seeing things like this, don't expect your family to be too excited over it, because they're too concerned that you might be going off the deep end and that you're going to go crazy on them. Nobody supports me and my family, except, they tolerate me, but they're not interested in this. That's why I like to hear from people that aren't afraid to look into stuff like this, because I am very interested in it. I think it means something really important that we need to know. It's a whole new realm of our dimension that we haven't really truly explored. I've looked and looked and looked all over Google Images for tiny things and pictures of them that we have, and nothing ever looks like what I'm capturing pictures of. Nothing ever does. But if you know of something that does, if you know you've seen this before somewhere, please let me know. See all the eyes on all of them? And how could the camera, if it were something the camera did, put these two eyes in every orb in about the same place on the orb, which is just a little below center and to the right, and straight on till morning. And see how this ribbon of light just folds over this other orb like it was flowing over it. Oh, I'm going to have to end. Oh, I wanted to show you this one though. Dark light comes from the light source. I see it all the time. Dark patches of light come from the light source, and this picture shows it rather well. Okay, I will bring this one up close and end it right here. There's one of my artifacts. And there's the two holes that are the eye sockets that I call them that. And then all the little tiny circles and even tinier ones. And it is just very interesting. I hope I hear from some of you. This is the Dove Lady, over and out for now.